Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here. On today's video, I'm going to walk you through some of my, some may call them janky do-it-yourself mods to my Xterra. The internet is a fun place where people just like to crap all over everybody else's ideas, so it could be interesting to see what the comments look like on this. But here's the thing, guys. I am a function over form guy all day long when it comes to off-roading / overlanding and my mods to my truck. It's a 16-year-old truck with 142,000 miles on it. It's super reliable. It runs great. I love the truck. But if I can do something for a couple bucks that somebody else would charge me 200 bucks for the same thing to mount something or do something, I'm going to do that every time, right? So regardless of the hate from the purists or the elitists or the snobby folks in overlanding, here you go. Again, this is my Xterra. I have a 2005 Xterra SE, and I'm going to show you some of the cool, I think, mods that I've made using things that weren't really intended for the way that I'm using them to solve problems, right? That's the whole point of do-it-yourself mods, is to fix some sort of a problem or a challenge that you've come across, or using something that, maybe isn't intended for the way you're using it, but solves the problem. So anyways, let's dive into that, and I will show you all the new mods that I've made to the truck in the last few months. All Things Overlanding is brought to you by Red Arc, Power Management Solutions, Rugged Bound Supply Company, rooftop tents, awnings, roof racks, and more. Overland Addict, premium overland gear. Last US Bag, overlanding bags and equipment. Northology Overland, trips and a monthly overlanding magazine. All of these companies are really amazing, so I highly recommend you click through the links in the description below to learn more about each of them. Alright guys, so a lot of big changes coming to the back of the truck right now, and this looks pretty janky, I know, but I bought this Best Tech splitter. It has a little bit of a cord, so it goes down to this always-on plug back here that I use for my fridge currently. But what I want to do is I want to be able to use this plug for both the fridge, and I bought a DC to Anderson plug adapter for this thing, which I'm going to then run up through the seam here, and I'm going to plug it into the new rugged bound, big country 4x4 tent that I got. So it actually has an Anderson plug right there. So I was just thinking, you know what? This is an always-on plug. Now there is a manual override on this splitter, so I could shut it off if I wanted to, just like probably when I get back from a trip and I want to make sure that the fridge goes off, I'll probably just flip it off at that switch there. That'll also shut off the Anderson plug. But so that is sort of the plan, is to use this one plug back here to run both the Anderson plug that'll power the lights in the tent and also the dual USBs that are in the tent. And also the refrigerator. So I know it looks a little janky right now. I'm going to clean up the zip ties and cut them, but I basically just drilled a couple of holes up in the roof headliner. I mean, again, mine's an 05. I don't care about it too much. But this is literally the best location. So you do have to kind of pop this panel off just so that you can get access to the headliner. I also pulled out the hook up there, like the clothes hanging hook, just so that I could pull down the headliner enough to get access to this. But now that that thing is zip tied up there, it's basically just zip tied to the ceiling, and it's pretty stable in there. Like it's attached to the headliner. I got to put this plastic piece back on here, but again, that'll give me 4 USBs back here that I could use to charge things if I needed to, like while I'm cooking or working in the back of the truck. It'll give me an extra DC, and then still have DCs for both the fridge and the tent. So pretty excited about that. I think this will work pretty well. That also raises it up, so I was worried because this is only a 3-foot cable. So I think from there up to there I should be fine, but from all the way down there up, maybe not. So anyway, so that is a little mod that I'm working on right now. I'm also relocating the propane tank. So this was where the battery was before, when I had, so my solar up front powered a small 35 amp hour battery that I had back here that I was using for charging stuff. Now I'm going to be, again, using this splitter and these plugs over here to do that off the main Odyssey AGM battery. And instead of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the solar to charge the main Odyssey AGM starter battery. So essentially that thing, just as long as there's some sun out, it should always be topping off and keeping the main starter battery charged. So even if I do have some parasitic loss with, things plugged in back here, or, like with the fridge running, with a 100-watt panel up front, I'm pretty confident that I should be able to keep that AGM battery topped off at all times. So it should be a pretty good setup. I'm pretty excited about it, but I wanted to give you guys a quick update on that mod. Again, I'm going to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to relocate the propane, so I'll give you more on that here in a second. Where I'm actually going to put it is right behind the fridge here on the other side over there, because over here the chainsaw hangs over, but I should be able to put it right over there. The reason for that is, I had it up here before just purely because that was an open spot, but the hose that I use, which I can show you here, the hose that I use to run from the portable propane tank to the stove right down here in the drawer system wasn't really long enough to reach from up there. It was kind of a pain. So I think it should fit just about perfect if I put the tank back there and then run the hose right around the front of the fridge and just sort of attach it to the D-rings here. Then it'll be ready to plug into, this is where the propane plugs into this Coleman stove. So that should solve the problem of the hose. It should allow me to leave the hose permanently attached too, so I don't have to mess with it every single time. And it gets the propane out of the way and in a better spot. All right, so another little idea I had, and I can put a link to these in the description below, but these are basically those things that you use for like a key card at work, Has this little strap on the top, which allowed me to attach it to that hook up there. And then it's actually has a little bungee on it, like a heavy duty bungee. But so the reason that I've got that is, so again, now I've got my fridge plugged in up here on the top. I'm actually considering making like a tilting slide to mount to the top of this drawer here. So I may need even more stretch a little bit. But what this does is it keeps the cord up and out of the way. Previously my cord was just kind of flopping down back here, but then it would get kind of caught, sometimes in like the slides or things like that. So again, mounting this up high with that splitter up high and then putting it on this, it gives me flexibility where I can pull on it a little bit and it's gonna come down and then go back up. But that just gives me a little bit of flexibility. So it's a little janky. It's kind of a, just an idea I came up with where I was like, you know what? I want my cord to be up out of the way, but I want to be able to like make sure I don't like rip it out of the plug up there. So again, I'm pretty excited about this because multiple times I'm trying to think if I can find a spot. I mean, you can kind of see right there, it's been nicked. The cord's been kind of cut or caught in the slides or in the drawer coming back, that kind of stuff. So again, this way I literally just wound it up, put a zip tie around it and hooked it to the back of this key chain return thing. It's a heavy duty one, and that keeps it up top. But again, if it needs flex, it's got flex. If it doesn't, that's cool. It just gives it some flexibility. And so here, I'll push the drawer back in so you can see that. All right, so just to show you this in action again. So this is the fridge plugged in up there to the Bestech splitter and then attached to the heavy duty card holder. So then the cool thing is, then as I slide the fridge in, it stretches to allow that cord to go back without putting any pressure on the cord. Stays plugged in, keeps the cord up out of the way, right? And it's just about perfect to where it goes to the back. So no more loose cord hanging down. And then when I pull it out, boom, it just goes right back up there, hangs up there out of the way, and keeps working. I think that's kind of cool. And it costs like $10 for 2 of these heavy duty thingamajiggies. So my propane tank, got a 5-gallon pretty recently. Had it mounted up here sitting on these little pads. This is where my battery used to be before I had the propane tank and before I switched my solar to charge the AGM deep cycle battery, the main starter battery. I had a battery back here where my solar plugged into, charge that. Then I got rid of that, put the propane tank here. Now I've gotten rid of that, so I have more room up here. I'll use this for like cooking and things like that, setting up food. So when I'm back here in the back of the truck and I need some more room to, access the stove, the fridge, all that good stuff, the drawers, then I'll have some storage on top there where I can, set down food, buns for hamburgers, that sort of stuff. So just a little bit more usable room when camping. But so I moved the 5-pound propane tank from up here over to there, and here's the reason. There's a couple reasons. One, you'll notice that I've got the output valve sticking this direction because it's basically, I'm going to take the hose from that and I'm going to run it down along the front here, maybe even put it through these straps so it can go right here, and then the stove regulator is actually right there. So that gives me just really close direct access. It's also tied to the drawer system, so the propane moves with the stove, which is nice. And again, I think I can just leave the propane hose attached to it all the time. Another cool thing is with it back here, I can see the gauge to see how full it is, both from if I'm looking in there in the back passenger door, or if I'm looking right there. So that's another benefit. But so the way that I got creative was I basically added some D-rings down here. So you'll see there's one back there that already holds the fridge, and I just reused that. But then I put another one here, and then 2 more over there, and then I've just got straps wrapped around it. Holds it pretty stable, it doesn't really go anywhere. And then just to be even more safe, because here's the thing, I've got my chainsaw mounted right back there to the side of the drawer system, which means when this closes, this fridge actually goes right up against that chainsaw. So I needed this to stay a minimum distance away so that it doesn't contact the chainsaw and prevent the drawer from closing. So basically I took a little piece of adhesive rubber stuff and put it on the inside of an L bracket and strapped that down, and that just ensures that the tank can't go past that point. So even if it does move a little bit, millimeters or whatever while I'm driving, it can't go past that point of the L bracket, which is kind of nice. So let me show you this in action now. Just slides right past the chainsaw. You can see the chainsaw brake actually contacts the fridge just a tiny bit. It's close. And then from back here you can see propane right there, fridge right there, chainsaw right there with just enough space to keep it from contacting. But that really maximizes my space, right? So I have this portion of my rear seat removed here. And then I've got my chainsaw mounted to the side of the drawer system via the sheath, which is sandwiched between some aluminum pieces back in there. And so then the chainsaw just stays right there. And now I have my propane right here, which again will be pretty much permanently hooked up and ready to plug into the stove whenever I get to camp and plug in the regulator and pop on the hose. That'll just stay right there. And again, from the passenger side here, I can see the tank reading and everything. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's going to work pretty well. All right, guys, so that was all of the do-it-yourself mods that I've done in the last few months. I do this stuff all the time. It's a constant work in progress, so I'm sure I'll be doing another one of these down the road, in 6 or 8 months. So if this was helpful for you, click that like button down below. It really helps quite a bit. Tells other people that, you learned something from the video or you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Click the bell to be notified when new videos drop. I have an Xterra. I'm a Nissan guy. I drop Xterra content all the time, overlanding content, gear reviews. I kind of do everything to do with overlanding, hence the name All Things Overlanding, right? So I'd love to have you as a subscriber. There are also links down in the description below to Facebook, Instagram. I've got a podcast. I've got a Patreon page, which is actually really cool. We're having some awesome conversations without, again, all the elitists and the snobs, just on our own behind closed doors, talking about questions, talking about gear, giving each other tips and stuff like that. So I'd love to have you as part of that too. Click through that link below and check that out as well. But until next time, I hope that was helpful, and we will see you next time.